Yo, what's up guys? Imagine Create Destroy here, and today I'm going to be building a book nook for Boylei Hobby Times August art challenge. Alright, let's get started. So, it just happens that I actually already started this book nook about a month ago. This art challenge has given me the inspiration to get back to this build. I've been having a little bit of art block, and honestly just a little lack of motivation to work on my builds lately. Work life has been kind of crazy, but I think this gave me the push I needed to get started again. Now at the start of the video there, I just sanded off the box and primed it black off camera. Go ahead and set that to the side while we get started on this tree here. Now this tree came out absolutely amazing. I'd love to give credit to Night Shift on YouTube. He has some really amazing tutorials and some really awesome builds that you should definitely go check out after you're done watching this video. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description of my video, as well as a link to the tutorial that I used for this tree build. Overall, I would say putting this tree together was pretty simple, just extremely time consuming. The only hard part was dealing with the funny looks that my neighbor gave me when I was outside collecting up fallen sticks from the tree outside of my apartment. After I finish the main branches of the tree, I'm going to use a little green stuff just to fill in some of the gaps that were created when a little bit of the bark fell off. Now that we're done putting the green stuff back on, I just poked it around with some sticks just to give back the bark texture to the green stuff. I wanted to get rid of my fingerprints off the backside there and just make it a little less smooth. So now comes one of the most time-consuming parts of this whole build. I'm going to use this spring foam moss to actually simulate the smaller branches on the tree. This was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. You have to super glue on each piece and then use a little activator to actually get it to stick. Without the activator, this stuff literally just fell right off and it was giving me a lot of trouble. For the painting process, it was pretty simple. I just worked my way up from lighter browns to darker browns with the painting. Then once I was done there, I followed up with the black wash. It really brought everything together and gave a little bit more depth to the cracks and crevices here. So to create a little depth and a little more realism, I went ahead and got two different colors of this AK Interactive shrub. I went with a light green and a dark green. Cut them in half and then I just mixed them together in a bowl, so when I picked them out I just got a random color each time. Since these are so light, I was able to just use a PVA glue. This one's an Elena's tacky glue. Helps them stick together without falling off easier. Now, this is the second most time consuming part, obviously. You're going to have to put on each one of these shrubs individually, and it was a bit of a pain. But I do think the end result is totally worth it. This is probably one of the most realistic tree tutorials that I had seen on YouTube, and I just love the end result that I got here. Originally, I wanted to use Black 4.0 for this build, but it has been 3 months since I ordered it and I still haven't received it, which is a bit of a bummer. So for a replacement, I found this on Amazon. Supposedly it does have a really good light absorption rate, and the end product did end up coming out pretty good. While I mix up the sculptal mold and I lay down the ground cover for this build, I do want to kind of get into the inspiration for where this came from. I originally got the idea from one of Boylei Hobby Times videos. He uses a Black 3.0 and Black 4.0 to paint the sides of his dioramas. And while I was driving to work, I had this idea of making a book nook with this really dark paint to almost simulate like an endless void. So when you do look into it, it looks like you're kind of looking into nothing. You can get a good idea of what that looks like right here, but I think with the bright lights that I use to record, it is just not as drastic as when I do the beauty shots at the end. For the ground cover, I just laid down a little PVA glue here. Then I'm going to come in with some potting soil. I think the potting soil has a good mix of sticks and smaller little fibers that really adds a lot of variation to the end product here. I just shook off the excess, took this outside, and then primed everything black so we can get ready for the painting. And here to paint the ground cover, I just worked my way up from darkest to lightest colors. Did a dark brown, a medium brown, and then a light brown. And I didn't let each layer dry fully. I just came over while each one was wet, so you can get a good variation and a nice blending of all the colors together. Since I'm not the best with the airbrush, I did get a lot of backsplash there, so I just came through with some more of that dark black to get the sides cleaned up. Now that we're done there, I'm going to move on to painting the pillars that we're going to tie the minifigure down to. To do this, I kept it pretty simple, did a light tan as the base, and then just came through with some brown, green, and white. Then we'll come through with the black wash just to mute down all the colors and blend everything together. After we're done here, we're going to glue it into place, and then we'll get started on the next step. For this next part, I used an AK Interactive's water gel, and to be honest, I didn't read the instructions for this, and it ended up coming out a lot worse than I was expecting. I think the mistake I made was it's supposed to be in a 0.1 to 3 millimeter thick layer, and then you're supposed to gradually work up in layers from there. I made it way too thick, and it ended up not drying all the way through, as you can see here. You still get that kind of whiteness under it that I really didn't like. So I peeled it back and then just repeated the steps that I did before for the rest of the ground layer. Little PVA glue, potting soil, and then I painted it. I think this is a good example of how you can paint without the airbrush. I did the same colors just with a regular brush here. The end results are almost just as good. I think I used just a little bit too much paint at the end, and it ended up pulling up at the bottom a bit. But overall, it came out really, really good. I'm gonna add some clump foliage just so the ground doesn't look so barren, and we'll use it to fill in some of the empty spaces here. Alrighty, now that we're done there, we'll get into the final step of this build. I'm going to get this minifigure ready to get tied up to the pillars there. She was already in a perfect position. I just cut off her axe so we can have her hands in the air without the weapon. I kept the paint job pretty simple here since I did spend so much time on the tree. I was kind of ready to get this build done. Don't feel too bad for her either. She was actually part of a raiding party raiding a village. She was the unlucky one in her group, and she got caught up by the villagers. And now they're going to string her up and leave her to die as an example for any other future raiders that come into the village. Now that she's done, we'll give her a little spin around so you can see the final results. Don't mind her face there. She got a little mauled when she was getting beat up by the villagers. It's definitely not for my terrible paint job and subpar painting skills. For the final step, we'll go ahead and string her up. And now that we're done, we'll get into the beauty shots. Thank you for watching, and I appreciate it to everybody who made it to the end of the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.